Hello, I'm CWO4 Vic Pinion, U.S. Navy retired, telling some stories of my naval career. Well, this one has to do with human relations aboard ship and the professional relationships among the most senior people, the officers and the enlisted people. I learned about when I was, probably a non-rated man, an E3, aboard my first ship, that it was common for us Catapult people to do things that annoyed the people in the engineering department that supplied the steam that we used in the catapults. It's just something that we did. Well, that did not foster good relations. It was poor relations. So the catapult people, the air boss and whatnot, we did not get along well with the engineers, and they didn't get along with us. We all viewed each other as like the enemy. So it was like generally an unpleasant thing. It was pleasant when you got one up on them, but not pleasant when they got one up on you. Anyway, as I advanced in my career and became E6, a first-class petty officer, a catapult captain, and catapult leading petty officer, that attitude of poor human relationships with people, especially in the engineering department, was prevalent aboard every ship I ever served aboard when, at the time I reported aboard. The chief engineer and the air boss generally didn't get along, and that rolled downhill through the department. It was an us and them type situation. So it made the many services that the engineering department provided to us in the catapult rescue crews, the air department, it made that problem prone because they didn't want to help us. They didn't want to cooperate with us. If we needed a part machined in a machine shop right now because the machine's down, it was a get in line and wait your turn. And if you needed to really have it and the command needed that machine bad enough, you could force the issue by coming down through the chain of command and ordering them to do it. Well, they didn't like it, but they would do it when they were ordered to. Well, that attitude was prevalent. Now, I was successful aboard the aircraft carrier Midway with turning that around. I say I was successful. It was really, we were successful. I was the catapult and rescue maintenance officer, and I encouraged the people under me to behave themselves and be respectful to people in the engineering department. And I personally got involved. I didn't send a non-rated man to take a part down the machine shop to get him to me. No, I either personally took it down there or escorted the first class or chief that took it down there and talked about it with the officers and chiefs and petty officers of that outfit. That went a long ways because it showed that we cared and we treated them with respect. Well, we developed a good rapport, but the chief engineer aboard the Midway at the time I reported aboard, I'm not going to say his name, but I do not like that man. I viewed him as a troublemaker. He fostered poor relationships. He's always pointing fingers and blaming without really knowing the source of the problem or the cause of the problem. In many cases, the source of the problem was something within his own department. But it was a miserable existence until aboard the Midway, Commander Ames reported aboard and became the chief engineer. Well, Commander Ames wanted to have a good rapport. He was a very professional chief engineer. This guy was fantastic. And we together created a good working relationship, a good rapport between our outfits. I can't tell you what a pleasure it was to be able to get things done and do business in a professional, caring, supportive environment. It was wonderful, whereas previously it had been miserable. Now, after I left the Midway, I reported aboard the Admiral staff at Comfera Westpac Detachment Cubic Point. I fostered that idea because all the ships had those problems. They just did. It was normal. Some would correct it for a short period of time, but then it would deteriorate quickly when someone in a senior position would foster the poor relationships. My relief on the Midway fostered poor relationships, where I had an excellent rapport with all the officers of the engineer department. He destroyed that quickly. And they did not like him because he was macho man, following that mindset. Well, he later learned and became a very professional maintenance officer. But I think he was an exception to the rule. He was following the standards that had been set on probably every ship he'd ever been aboard. But I reported aboard the aircraft carrier John F. Kennedy as my last tour of duty of my naval career, and I found that miserable rapport, absolute dislike between the air boss and the chief engineer, and that rolling downhill to the lowest levels. And I worked on that. But whereas it took me about a year and a half aboard the Midway before we established a good rapport, and the chief engineer being replaced with a new one who did support good relationships. Well, we had about the same situation aboard the Kennedy. We worked on it, but aboard the Kennedy, because I'm really paying attention to things, when something would happen and somebody, either in my own crew or in the engineer department, was screwed up and is really not supporting good professional operations and maintenance procedures and support cooperation, I would talk with them about it. I was fortunate on the Kennedy because the maintenance chief, Doug Cheney, the Bobcat chief, Ricky Neely, the Wastecat chief, Chris Paris, and the resting gear chief, Bob Sherwood, were all of the mindset of supporting good human relationships. Lord have mercy, praise the Lord, I had found a ship that was on the right track in the beginning. Now, yes, we did have some problems that I've told you about, but most of our problems were created by off-ship activities like that half-size hydraulic piping I told about in another story, and the big balls of weld to try to keep the ship operating, and the effect of delaying operations and so forth, and it snowballing up into a mess, which probably contributed or caused other incidents and accidents. Well, on the Kennedy, we had a good crew. They were pretty well trained. Yes, we did have some problems. We had some infrastructure problems, which the chiefs recognized. All of them did. They all came to me, especially Chief Neely and Cheney and Paris, about having a tool control system, about improving the supply support, about maintenance coordination and interfacing and planning and whatnot. I worked well with those chiefs. I loved it, love them to this day. Wonderful working relationship. I encourage all of you, do not foster bad human relationships. Don't think you're better than somebody else. Be cooperative and generate that good rapport. Your life will be so much better. Y'all carry on.